Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Fantastic, Drew. It's yet another Victory Tuesday.
We have a lot of them this year.
Lions win, delicious food on Thanksgiving. It couldn't have been a better weekend.
I got what I wanted. I've been saying all year that I wanted the Lions to win on Thanksgiving, and they obliged for the first time in
7 years.
7 years.
7 straight losses up until Thursday.
So you know what they say: eighth time is the charm.
It is, yeah. Well, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened. Well, there's a couple key crazy things that happened around the NHL or the NFL.
You.
Yep. Yeah, I know. At least I didn't say Eric Decker. That's all I got. I got nothing. So Trevor Lawrence got absolutely demolished as he went down to slide, and forget the guy's name. Al-Shahir Aziz or something. Aziz, his first name.
What's up, Joseph? Yeah, I think it's Aziz Al-Shahir.
He got suspended for 3 games for that hit, although they are fighting that.
He is appealing. So he will not miss anything until his appeal is determined. Now, usually, I bet it gets knocked down to 2 games, and they were like, okay. And then start the clock, that kind of thing. So.
What did you think of the hit? It was pretty egregious.
I guess my take on the hit is he slid late, but basically I think that it looks terrible. And at full speed, it's super hard to know anymore. I don't know. But my thing is, I don't understand how any defensive player, when trying to tackle a running quarterback, goes for that move anymore. That's what I don't get. So the only reason, because they're going to throw flags. You just know it.
Yep.
So unless, of course, I was shocked 10 years ago when the Saints had their Bounty Gate incident. And it was for $1,000 or whatever it is, if you knock someone out of the game, and I was like, $1,000? The fuck are you talking about?
These guys are making millions, and that's
you make 57 times that for just playing in the game. What does this matter to you? That would be like my boss coming in my office and being like, Drew, if you do this semi thing that you shouldn't do that is in the rule book, we are going to give you another 35 cents an hour. And exactly. I'm like, oh, this will finally put food on the table, so, but they did it, so to me, ever since then, when I see something like this, my thought immediately goes to the benefit of knocking Trevor Lawrence out of the game is just worth it.
For 15 yards and
for 15 yards,
lesser player getting ejected, right?
I'll bet the Texans pay whatever he's fined so that he doesn't actually lose any money, and he'll be fine with it. To be honest, and you got the union to back you up, so no matter what you do wrong, they're gonna say, "Well, hang on, we got to protect our, everybody that's a player," and he is still a player, even though he just decimated, another guy. But this is the thing to me that is player safety has to start with players, and it has to be all of them.
Yeah. And coaches, right? The coaches have to train them, teach them to slide earlier, right? It's an unpopular opinion. I don't think that, I think as soon as that quarterback passes that line, he is a running back, and you don't slide. You either have made the choice of you're going to run, or you're going to stay behind that line and be a quarterback. And these kind of things won't be an issue because you know that you're going to get hit because you're on the other side of the line. What are they going to do? You're just like a running back. You're just like a wide receiver. Be ready for it. None of this like I'm going to slide and try to get out of it nonsense. And I think you can take away a lot of hits that way. But I don't think they'll ever change that because the Lamar Jacksons of the world, Josh Allen's of the world, like even some of the other guys that aren't really super running quarterbacks will want to scramble and try to make something out of nothing, and you don't want those guys hurt. So I don't think they'll ever do it. But I would love to say like, hey, once you cross that line, you're a running back. So there's no pussing out and just drop into your knees, trying to get out away of the hit. Just lower your shoulder or get out of bounds. But again, I don't think they're going to do that.
No matter what I don't know about no matter what you do, the union will be. Well, they just, I mean, like, but like, I guess my point, Joseph, is like the union is backing Shire because like he's one of their players. Like, so they're appealing to the league on the suspension, and like the players union does that on behalf of the player who was suspended. So, I mean,
he's
otherwise,
a repeat offender, by the way.
Well,
this is not his first time.
Yeah, no, it's not. So like, and his rep is gonna hurt him, right? So like we've seen that. You know, you're more likely to get suspended as opposed to fined. The suspensions will be longer as opposed to shorter, and like all this kind of stuff. But like the union has to be for everybody as long as you're an active player. Otherwise, it's not a union. It's a popularity contest. So, they are going to have his back, even though he super crushed like one of the other guys in the league. Yeah, it's no matter what you do.
Yeah. There's going to be some things that are going to be like, yeah, we're not stepping behind that guy.
He didn't kill anybody. I mean, like,
right.
So, I mean,
and I think what they're doing is,
I bet they wouldn't get his back if he was accused of murder.
Probably not.
So,
but yeah, I think what they're appealing is other people had just as vicious of a hit and didn't get 3 games. And I know the NFL is going to come back and say, yeah, but this is not the first time. And they're going to be like, yeah, but this other person didn't get 3 games and it wasn't their first time. And then, like you said, they'll dicker and deal and they'll probably get down to 2 games, maybe down to 1. But I think the NFL wants to make it known like this is not okay. And I think they're going to go no less than 2. But I do think that they'll probably drop it down to 2.
Yeah, I have seen too many like 3-game suspensions get whittled down to 2 because for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm sorry, like you have to agree to a 3-game suspension now? Fuck that. I mean, just take your suspension.
I disagree. Like
no, Joe, this is the only thing I'll say on it is that I will not be mocking Jack Sawyer to the Lions anytime soon. So that will my petty ass bias is not going to let me do that until I cool down in the next 5 months. So
I was going to say, how many months? Yeah,
it's going to be months. So did not enjoy that part of it. So anyways, and then the other kind of news item from around the NFL is poor Christian McCaffrey. He just came back after like 10 weeks or some crazy number. And he played 3 quarters of football or something.
Yep.
And now he's out
on IR.
That's just
again. Yeah, I feel bad for him. Like he's a good dude. And you never like to see anybody get hurt unless their name is Claude Lemieux or Aaron Rodgers. So that's not his name, so we're kind of bummed for him. So
yeah,
it sucks to be the Niners fans. They lost Ayuk early. They lost CMC early. They lost CMC late. There's just not, and they're probably going to end up in the basement in the cellar of their division this year, which nobody saw coming.
No, I was in a CBS. CBS has hired a draft analyst that I really like called Mike Renner. He used to work for PFF, and so I watch his show that he does. And I was in their group chat today, and someone was like, the Niners need to get rid of John Lynch. They need to get rid of Kyle Shanahan. Don't re-sign Brock Purdy. all this kind of stuff. Like, look at the failure of the organization. And I was like, you mean the one that's like
got to the Super Bowl last year?
Got to the Super Bowl last year and is in the running for the most injured team in the NFL, that 49ers team, and set off a spirited debate about the state of the 49ers. And I was just like, I don't know that you should do seismic changes when it's like you're going to get all these guys back in September. So
yeah, it's tough. I was talking with a Niners fan earlier today, one of our vendors. He's a Niners fan, and I told him I was still a little bitter about the second half of the NFC Championship game, even after all this time. But there's a fairly large sentiment, it sounds like, that are not happy with Kyle Shanahan, and I guess I get it. I mean, he's been to 3 Super Bowls, lost them all, 2 of them with the Niners, and he does kind of have this thing about getting into the really big games and just not being able to pull it out. But like, man, I'd rather have a coach that always gets me to that big game, because one of these times he's going to pull it out. So
yeah,
I'm kind of mixed on some of that for those guys. But just like we did with Caldwell, we're like, not good enough. We was a 10-win team. We should have done better. We should get rid of Caldwell and get somebody better. And then what do we end up with? We ended up with Patricia right after that.
Yeah.
And that was like 3 miserable years. And you can get worse at coach too, right?
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Michael, it is tough coming back after losing a Super Bowl. Michael's one of our Philadelphia Eagles fan subscribers. So thanks for popping in, Mike.
Eagles.
I know that they're the only team in the NFC that scares me.
I'm a little worried about the Eagles. So
yeah, I'm really kind of hoping we get the number 1 seed and they pull somebody that's really hot at the end of the year.
Eagles, Packers,
first round upset, right?
That would be my ideal scenario as well.
No offense, Michael. We just don't want to play you guys in the NFC Championship game.
Some offense. I mean,
a little, maybe a little.
You guys are good. I absolutely don't want to play you. So,
yeah. So yeah, I felt bad for CMC, and then kind of the other big thing really kind of revolves around the Lions, right? So let's kind of transition into that. Specifically, the last 36 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
What did you think about that, Drew?
I was literally shocked. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I have not seen a game managed as poorly at the end. I cannot remember a game that I think has been managed as poorly as the Bears managed the last 40 seconds of that game on Thanksgiving. And I'm glad they did, but yes. I couldn't believe it. So, but we're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think we're going to play a video for you. Do you have that video, Mike?
Which one's that? I don't think I'm not ready for that one. I know.
Jackson,
poor production quality.
Yeah. So while Mike looks up a video from Jackson Kruger Sports that we're going to play for you, we'll start talking about it. Clearly the Lions won the game because the Bears mismanaged the game so poorly. And I'm going to complain a little.
Send me a link, by the way.
I will send it to you in there. Hang on, I will send it to you. Well, you have to talk now then.
Oh, shit.
I can't do both. I can't look for links and talk at the same time.
How about that Trevor Lawrence hit, guys?
Oh, Jesus. It has to be about something new, dude. I mean.
Oh, man. God, under pressure.
You are terrible.
Yeah, I'm terrible. The memes that have come out from this have been pretty classic as well. It's in the chat. All right. Of course.
Hey, Hatters. What's up, man? Tab. Oh, love that. May the force be with the Lions on Thursday. That's awesome, dude. That's great. I love that shit. Skeleton Crew came out yesterday, so I'm pretty stoked. Yeah. So if you guys, so while you're getting that prepped, Mike, if you guys haven't watched Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus, it is like Goonies in Star Wars for kids. It's great.
Hold on, let me. I want to make sure.
Yeah, you
it
should.
also
I'd be interested to know what
shares
you think,
audio.
Hatters.
All right, let's try re-adding this.
Yeah. There we go.
And
So this
Hatters, Joseph, Michael, in chat, let us know if you can hear the audio.
Yeah. So this guy, Jackson Kruger Sports, check out his stuff. He does a really good job, and he summarizes this entire scenario. So I'm going to do my best to be quiet. Is it supposed to pause like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to pause.
I can't hear it either.
All right, so what do we got here? Hold on. It was supposed to.
So we're
right, let me try
Mike
this
and I are
again.
expanding like the kinds of things that we're trying to bring to the channel. But I'm awful at this kind of stuff, and Mike is literally his job. I think his job description is technical wizard, and so, but yet this is the state of the show.
Soon enough, it'll be executive director of technical
Executive
wizardry.
director, technical wizard. Yeah.
All right, this this should have the audio. Tell me if you guys hear it.
So the Chicago Bears not have
All right.
very good clock management here. So let's pause it right now so we can set the stage. This is the situation for the Bears. They're in a great spot to upset the Detroit Lions, a team that they were 10.5-point underdogs against heading into this game. It's a 2nd down and 10, and you see they're at the Lions' 25-yard line. They're down 3 points, but there's still 41 seconds left, and they got a timeout. Plenty of time left, right? Let's see if we can drive down and score a touchdown. Well, this play at first looks like it's going to help them, but ultimately does not. There was a penalty on this play. This is it. Look at the left side of your screen. You see offensive lineman knocking off a defensive lineman's helmet. Can't do that. That's going to bump you back 10 yards. Now you're in a little bit of trouble. It's not a disaster, but you do have to pay attention a little bit to where you are on the field as you're at your own 35-yard line. 2nd down and 20 here. But still, 36 seconds left. Carlos Santos has a pretty big leg. You're in a dome. You're fine. You can try a field goal from here. Just don't have any more negative plays. Well, except the right tackle does not block on this play, which results in an immediate sack. And because of that, now they're starting to be in a little bit of trouble, right?
pause
I
it,
mean,
Mike?
you're in a situation where it'd be a 58.
Can you rewind it like 4 seconds? Watch the right tackle on this play.
Bring it back just a little bit more.
Just
Yeah.
don't have any more negative plays. Well, except the right tackle
at
does
him!
not block on this play, which results in an immediate sack. And because of that, now they're starting to be in a little bit of trouble.
It's like he
right?
doesn't
I
even
mean,
see
you're
him.
in a situation where it'd be a 58-yard field goal from here. You're in a dome. You have a chance, but it's not ideal. So now that it's going to be a 3rd down and 26, well, what are your options? To me, I think you have 2 options, and they're both totally fine options. You have plenty of time, 32 seconds left. What you either do is, A, you call a timeout right now, and then you run one more play. You can still run it over the middle of the field if you want to. After you run that play, you rush your field goal unit on, have them kick a field goal. That's plenty of time to rush the field goal unit on. The other option, and the one I think I would prefer, is you just hurry up to the line, run one more play, and then you can call a timeout after you gain a few yards, and then you don't have to rush the field goal unit on. So what is Matt Eberflus going to do in this situation? Well, I'll let you hear him himself explain it.
Re-rack that play at 18 seconds, throw it in bounds, get it into the field goal range, and then call the timeout.
Okay, that makes total sense, right? That was one of the options that I mentioned, which is you run one more play with, run it around 18 seconds left. You might be wondering, 18 seconds, that's a little bit late, right? Shouldn't you be doing it a little bit earlier? Well, he actually has an explanation for that as well.
Again, we were outside the field goal range, so we needed to get a few more yards in there, as close as we can get, and then we're going to call timeout. And that's why we held that last timeout.
I'm not sure if you caught that, but he said they're going to call a timeout, them being the Lions. His logic is you don't want to run the play too early, because if you run the play too early, then the Lions could call a timeout and have a little bit of time left of their own to try and score. I don't know if you really need to be thinking about that, but still, again, you have plenty of time. You get the logic. Okay, understood. We have the plan.
So he was putting the cart before the horse there a little bit,
Awful.
right? right?
It's awful.
Plan. How are they going to execute it? Well, first, you're going to see that Caleb Williams not that quick to get up. He's actually very slow to get up. It's actually, look at 65, the offensive lineman. He's the one that's coming up and saying, hey, we have to hurry. Remember the 18 seconds thing? We have to go. We have to make sure that we can get another playoff. So he's the one who's actually, paying attention, getting the gears in motion. Caleb Williams, to his credit, only a few seconds, into this sequence, does realize that he's trying to get everybody set now. So we'll cut a little bit ahead, 5 more seconds ahead to this sequence,
So now he
this
starts to
situation.
change the play.
There is 16 seconds left.
Yeah, because it took him 20 seconds to get the play in from the sideline to Caleb Williams.
Well, he had the play at the beginning of the last play. They gave him 2 plays. I'm almost certain.
I had read that Caleb didn't get the play until 20 seconds in. And by the time he actually got the play, he looks up and realizes he doesn't have enough time to run that play and still get a field goal. So he had to audible to the go for the touchdown, go for the win. That was what I had read.
Regardless, as soon as Eberflus saw Williams changing the play, that's got to be timeout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's got to be timeout.
This is not the way I planned it. Let's stop. Let's think about this. Let's talk about it as a group or whatever and go, right?
Because the ball's on the 41 here, right? So it's a 58-yard try.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
Yeah. No, you only need a couple yards. Like every yard that you get makes it a higher and higher percentage play, right?
Or you can just kick it from here.
You could.
Yeah.
The Bears are mostly set at this point. They have plenty of time, right? You run a play. You have all day to run a play, try and gain just 5 yards or so, and then kick a game-tying field goal. You're totally good, and they just take so long here. First, you're going to see them take 5 seconds here, and this is where you have to start wondering about Eberflus. So I'll pause it again right here. There's 11 seconds left.
There.
You have to wonder at a certain point, if you're Eberflus, do you just call a timeout and say, you know what, we have to call a timeout? I kind of understand why he's not, though. They're lined up, and you want to run a quick play so that way you have the timeout after. If not, then you have to work the sidelines. Things become a little bit more difficult. So instead, what happens is here you're going to see that, again, another 5 seconds run off the clock. Finally, the ball is snapped right here with 6 seconds left in the game clock, which I have to say again, is kind of enough time, right? You can run a quick play, run a quick slant, run a quick something. You have plenty of time. In fact, let me show you the last frame of this play where there still is a second left on the clock. It's right here. You see how far into this play it is. If Caleb Williams ran anything but a deep shot, they would have had another play. And Eberflus did say that this was not the play design that they had going into this. I think this is Williams looking up, realizing he didn't have enough time, and throwing the ball down the field. So I don't know exactly what happened here. Eberflus basically didn't say. He didn't specify what exactly happened. Why did Caleb Williams hold on to the ball longer than probably he should have? Why was the ball snapped with 6 seconds left instead of 18 seconds left like they had planned? I don't know. Is it fair to blame Caleb Williams? Maybe. There was, there was 14 seconds left on the play clock when Williams took the snap. Did Williams just get the clocks confused? That's possible. But as you see, this pass went incomplete. Even the Lions, kind of funny their reaction. Like you see, Dan Campbell kind of slowly realizes, like, oh, hey, guys, that's game. We won. Also, I think an interesting thing, going back earlier in the drive, this situation.
Okay, so good breakdown from Jackson right there. So if you guys don't follow him, go follow him. You can get rid of this, Mike. But so here's my question. Caleb, when he was interviewed either after the game or by the press since, basically said he didn't feel like, when asked like why he didn't call timeout, he basically said like, I'm not empowered to call timeouts for the team.
Yeah, apparently
but
he called the timeout earlier in the quarter.
Yeah, like
he called timeout either earlier in the drive or earlier in the quarter, and I understand he got his wrist slapped, and he did not feel at that time that he was allowed to do that after what happened to him earlier.
So here's what I would have done if I was in Matt Eberflus's spot. You take the sack, I call timeout. Let's calm down. We'll get a play in. I'm going to get my special teams field goal. I'm going to get my special teams coordinator, get my field goal unit ready. We're going to run a play like a slant, which they had been absolutely crushing on all game except the first half, all second half. And then as soon as the refs have the ball, we're running the unit onto the field, line up, and just kick the field goal. That's what I do. That's what how I would have managed it.
Because you have 32 seconds left when you call that timeout, when that previous play ended, right? So you do that. Even a somewhat slow developing play, a play that takes you 7-8 seconds to complete, you're still into the 20s. Plenty of time to get your guys on the field for a field goal, whether it's an 88 or a 58-yarder because you got nowhere, or a slightly shorter one because you got something on that play. You have a ton of time, especially during that timeout. Like you said, your special teams guys, like, all right, guys, line up here, be ready to run. And they chose none of those. I think a lot of people are giving Caleb Williams crap. I think this is straight coaching. Like, the coach did not prepare him for this situation, whether it was in pregame, whether it was in warm-ups, whether it was in the practice sessions during the week, or even leading up to this game, during the that was never done for him. He's a rookie. This isn't like Tom Brady. If that was Tom Brady, no problem, right? This is a rookie that needs to be shown and guided by his head coach. And the head coach did none of that preparation.
So this is, in my opinion, a failure that highlights mistakes that were made last season. So Eberflus had rumblings that he was not going to keep his job at the end of they only won 3 games last year. Remember, they ended up with the number 1 overall pick. So well, that pick was from Carolina, but
it's true. I was going to say, well, that wasn't probably there,
but they still only won 3 games. Yeah. So once you knew that you had the number 1 overall pick and you were going to draft a quarterback, most likely Caleb Williams, I am of the opinion that you should have fired the whole staff, and you bring them all in new, fresh with Caleb.
Yeah.
Because this is the problem now. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate the support. This is exactly the problem that ruins young quarterbacks in the NFL. It's not playing them too soon. It's not maybe the team isn't 100% like the Detroit Lions roster around them to start. It's this bullshit. It's I fired, like, the head coach and the GM were fighting to keep their job or whatever. And it's like, okay, give us the next quarterback. And then it doesn't go right. And so you fire the head coach, and now you are in head coach merry-go-round. So remember, last year they fired their OC, Luke Getsy. What'd they do this year? They fired their OC, Shane Waldron. And then now, just remember, 8 days ago, Thomas Moore, I think his name is, or is it Marin? Whoever their interim head coach is, he was like the passing game coordinator a week ago. And now, then he was interim OC, and now he's interim head coach. Dude.
Yeah.
That's a
same thing happened to the Lions too, right? We had 4 offensive coordinators in like 5 years in the midst, early in Stafford's career. We had like 2 years of Mike Martz, and then everything was like, oh, it's going to be Jim Bob Cooter for a year. It's going to be this guy for a year. And you're just like, how do you get any consistency with your young players?
You have successful programs, successful teams, whether you're talking about college football or you're talking about professional football. If you look at great, quote unquote, dynasties, they have continuity from the top down. That's why I'm so excited that we've got Sheila, Brad, Dan. We need to keep that column is the fucking pillar that holds up the entire organization and everything that we're doing. You got to maintain that. And if you're just constantly like Jenga, playing a game at Jenga where you're taking the fucking bottom of the pillar out all the time, like of course it's going to be difficult. This isn't even, in my opinion, the worst part about this scenario. after the game, Eberflus takes the Bears into the locker room and has given them it's a process. It's a process. We're doing the right things. And Jalen Johnson, their all-pro corner, gets up and takes over the locker room and just calls him out, calls him to the mat. And I'm just like, I heard Jay Glazer report that on Fox, and I was like, that's not true. That's bullshit. Like, that's just like a rumor that somebody started. And then I heard it from like two other people that like sources I trust, like Ian Pelissero or somebody. And I was like, oh shit, really? Like, if that's the case, then you have to be fired immediately.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the day after the game, they let Eberflus go to his press conference while they're like the brass is in a meeting discussing like whether or not they should fire Eberflus. And I was like, the decision was made by the players after the game.
Right.
Like
ownership just didn't know.
This is the reason to me that Chicago's going to continue to have problems. Their roster is, I don't think, all that far away from contending with the rest of the teams in this division.
Yeah.
But it's the management, it's the coaching, it's the lack of continuity, and it's the lack of ability to have a process in place to develop their young players, of which they have many.
I think Joseph's got it right as well.
Oh, yeah.
Spielman,
well, he's right about lots of stuff.
Right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I totally agree. I think, going into the season, you and I even talked about, is there a better situation for a guy like Caleb Williams to walk into when it comes to the weapons he has around him? You've got DeAndre Swift as a running back. You've got possibly the best wide receiving core in the division. They have three really good players. I mean, none of them are as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown, but like as a core, their top three, as good as it comes in the division. And you're like, okay, this guy's going to be successful. And then the offensive line hasn't been good for them, and their coaching and play calling has been atrocious. And of course, you're going to get your normal like rookie learning opportunities, we'll call them. And
he's going to learn a lot from this one. Lots of learning.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn there, and but like, I think you're right. I think this next year, essentially, this was a throwaway year, and what a waste of a throwaway year! Or like, what a waste of a year of this kid's career. Yeah. With Eberflus in this group. So I'll be curious to see how they go forward.
I've got a candidate for him. I got a candidate I think would be perfect for him.
Not a current Detroit Lion, right? Okay, good. Thank God. Okay, then I'll let you go forward. Go ahead.
Mike Vrabel.
Former
Tennessee Titans head coach. Here's the thing that I think the Chicago Bears need, and I think it's a trend that is starting to happen in the NFL, and I think Dan Campbell is the best example of that trend, is you need a former player who fucking gets it, who can manage other players, who can set a tone, won't take any shit, and establish, like, this is how we do things in Chicago. And I think the best person for that is Mike Vrabel. He has a year off from when he was the head coach of the Titans. They've done studies, I don't know who they are, universities, I guess, on like people that take a year off from sports, like athletes and coaches. They rest, they get their body right, they get their mind right. So first of all, the head coach does not need to be an offensive or defensive mind.
Right.
The head coach needs to manage the team. He has to set a tone, provide direction, and be a leader. That is what a head coach is for. If you want and then you hire an offensive coordinator and you empower the offensive coordinator. You hire a defensive coordinator, you empower the defensive coordinator to run those two sides of the ball while you manage the team. That's how Detroit does it. That's how everybody should do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's all about surrounding yourself with people smarter than you in the areas that that they need to be smarter than you in, right?
Yeah. So yeah, to me, I think what Chicago, not sure. They might, but like I don't. So like, is Dan Campbell an offensive-minded coach? Is he a defensive-minded coach? To me, Dan Campbell is a coach. Like when you like, I think that Chicago, but more than like offense, defense, Chicago needs a coach that players say, "I would run through a wall for that guy."
Yeah.
That's what Chicago needs more than anything. They are not to the. I agree that you need that direction that you're talking about, Joseph. But I think that like before you get to that step, you have to get buy-in from players, and like the way that you get buy-in from players is with a person like Vrabel.
Yeah, and I think you look at Mike Tomlin, right? He's just a damn good coach.
Right.
He was. I don't think he went in going like, "Oh, he's an offensive or a defensive-minded coach." It just looks like he's a good coach overall, and you just need to get the right people as your coordinators and your position line coaches. That I mean, I think even as just a coach, not offensive or defensive minded, you can have some offensive and defensive philosophies. Like, oh, I want to run a 3-4 or 4-3 or whatever we want to do. I want to run a more downfield type of thing. You can do that kind of thing, but find the right guy to do that. It's probably not going to be you. There's not a lot of Sean McVays out there that are like, he's the head coach and the offensive coordinator. I don't even know who the offensive coordinator is in LA, and it doesn't actually matter because it's really McVay's offense and he's the play caller, and that's really rare. And I think at least from the successful teams, because you just let somebody else go, all right, this is your fiefdom. You have the offense. Make it the best as possible. This is your fiefdom. You have the defense. Make it as dominant as possible. And I will help in whatever way I can to let you guys do your thing, right? So I think what they need to do is they need to find one of those offensive Ben Johnson types, right? Where you're like, don't take Ben. But like one of those guys that's really unique, gifted when it comes to scheming and conceptualizing plays around Caleb Williams' skill set. That's what they need to find. It's not, I think, as far as Caleb Williams is concerned, that's what you need to find. It's not the head coach that is going to make Caleb Williams. The head coach will make the whole team.
I have no idea what Ben Johnson wants. I'm starting to think. I'm starting to think that he wants to be the highest paid coach in the NFL is what I'm actually leaning towards. But like, I cannot.
I mean, if you only got one shot, which most of the time you do, right? Like, just make it paid.
Like, I cannot imagine that there would be a better opportunity this year than what he had in Washington, going to Washington last year. Like, I don't know that there's a real difference between like coaching Caleb Williams or coaching Jaden Daniels. Like, I don't know what the gap in those two things is. I think that if you're Ben Johnson, I think you can make either one of those players work. It doesn't like, it's not like, oh, I won't coach Jaden Daniels unless I have a chance at Caleb Williams. Oh, swoon, like, but, and they have a ton of money and like their team is not terrible. And I think that that's evidenced by the fact that like, they're like 7-4, 8-4, 7-5, something like that this year, and there's a lot of clay work with there, and he had the opportunity to go there. They wanted him, and if it just, so like, why not? So, what is it? I don't know.
He may also just be really happy doing what he's doing. And like, if I really enjoy this, I like working for Dan and Sheila and Brad. I like it being in Detroit. I think we've got a good thing going here. So if you're going to pull me away, you better pay through the nose. I could see that being a thing. I've done that, being a tech guy. Like I've done that on side work where I just keep raising my rates for side gig stuff because I have a regular job. I already work 50 hours a week or whatever with my regular job. So if you're going to take my evenings and weekends, you're going to pay through the nose for it. And he may just be essentially doing that where he's just like, all right, I'm good with where I'm at. But if you're going to pay an absurd amount, you can talk me out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I do know that eventually that if you tell everybody you're not interested, they don't ask anymore. So
this is true.
So I don't know. Maybe he's fine with just being a offensive coordinator in Detroit. Like he just likes it being here. I could understand that, but like if I was him, I would also be like, my next raise will be for this much, and like, he should be able to call that, I would think, at this point. So
Probably.
So
you want to talk about the rest of the game? Because there were good, bad, and ugly on that.
All right. So I'm not going to say a ton of nice shit about
because we should have walked all over them. It should have been a blowout.
Listen,
offensively.
Last week I said I was nervous about the game. Okay.
Yep.
I do not have a wife and teenage kids. That's Mike.
This is true.
Yeah. I am.
I think he's talking about Ben Johnson. He might have a wife and teenage kids that want to keep him local.
Gotcha. So that makes a lot more sense. But I continue to believe, which rips my heart out, that the Detroit Lions ultimately are a team of one half every week, unless you're playing the worst team in the NFL and the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's like which two quarters do you want to have go well? Which two quarters do you want to not have go well?
And I want the second and the fourth to go well.
Those are two good ones.
Right? As long as the fourth is the one of them, I don't care about the others.
So I watched the first half. Detroit has more first downs at one point than Chicago has yards.
Yeah.
Or something, some stupid number.
Probably had more play. I think we had more first downs than they had plays because they went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They had like 9 plays in 3 series, and we had like something like 14 first downs by then.
So, and I didn't mind being up 16-0 because effectively it's 3 scores, right? Like the odds that any team in the NFL being down 16 points scores a touchdown, goes for 2, succeeds, scores another touchdown, goes for 2, succeeds, are very low. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like you probably have 3 possessions worth of time to either extend your lead or earn back, take off clock, whatever. And and I was a little concerned when they were kicking field goals. They obviously trust Jake Bates, and he's been great, but I also
Michaels had to say something about it.
Okay, so you're basically like he jinxed him, and I'm like
I don't believe in jinxes, but it's fun to be like, all right, the last time you said something, they missed it. This time, you son of a bitch, they missed it too.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, like, there's always a part of me that's like, I'm like 99%. There's no such thing as curses. There's no such thing as jinxes. Yeah. But then I'm always shut up, dude. We're kicking. Like
yeah, exactly.
So
it's like do you remember the old TiVo commercial back before DVR was like thing where they're kicking the extra point or the field goal to win the game, and he pauses it, runs to church, prays, comes back, and unpauses the game. Classic.
That's a good one. They ran the ball well. They did everything well on both sides of the ball in the first half. I mean, I think the only real miscue was Tyreek Stevenson came in and knocked the ball out of Jahmyr Gibbs' hands when he was at like the 5, and it literally popped right into one of their players' hands. Like, I mean, that was just like
a
okay, we'll just give you the ball, and like that's the first time they've lost a fumble at home in a year, and like Gibbs never really fumbles, so like it's kind of a you're mathematically due for something like that to happen. But it was still a disappointment because it was like that's either 3 points, which changes the end of the game, or like maybe a touchdown, which changes the end of the game. And they came out in the second half, and it was like, I understand that like the Bears offense got better and the defense was not able to shut them down, but we knew that the defense was A, missing pieces, and then B, lost so many other players during the game that I was just like, the offense has to be the stabilizing force when shit like this starts to go sideways. And nobody did a good job.
Yeah, and the second half?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I don't understand. That's the part, like, how are you so good on offense in the first half, even if you're kicking field goals instead of going for touchdowns? Like, you moved the ball, you took time off the clock, like, but they didn't get in. I mean, they got in position for one field goal in the second half. They missed it, and they scored one touchdown, right?
Yeah, because they Chicago went out, drove right down the field like we were Swiss cheese, scored a touchdown, and then we came back and scored as well. So we did answer their score right away after they did it, but we then our defense kind of, I mean, we're hurt, right? So it's Gibbs has 2 fumbles and he could think of both of them. Yeah. But yeah, so like our offense did respond to that, but that was the last thing that they really did for the rest of the game, offensively.
So we talked about the end of the game, so we're not going to talk about that. But like, it is worrisome to me, having watched the NFC Championship game last year, and like then watching how this game goes when a team that is, I mean, I think the Bears are talented, but they're 4-8, 4-7 or whatever prior to Thanksgiving. And they're challenging you to either tie and force the game to go into overtime where they have all of the momentum.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if Tevin Jenkins hadn't knocked off Lee McNeil's helmet, if Larry Borum hadn't just been like, what? The play's starting? You know, like, if those kinds of things hadn't happened, they're at the 10.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a different scenario. So we
used to pull defeat from the jaws of victory. Mm-hmm. I don't mind having, you know, a victory from the jaws of defeat every once in a while. Like, I don't like it, but I'll take a W, right? So these games are always tough. It's a division game. It's a Thanksgiving game. We're at home. We've got all the pressure on us. They've got none of the pressure on them. And I like that we were resilient enough to not completely fold, especially after yet more people got hurt, right? So could have been worse, could have been better. Jameson Williams needs, I want to wring his neck for the throwing the football in the face of your opponent out of. I get he was tripped, and the dude that tripped him was the guy that was mocking the crowd and then got that cost his team the game with the tipping it anyway, the Hail Mary thing. But like, yes, he tripped you. Yes, he should have gotten a penalty for that too. But like, you don't throw the ball in the guy's face. That is, you got to keep your cool. Cost us 15 yards and momentum and everything else. So that sucks. I do appreciate the fact that after the game, without being chided by the coach or anything like that, he apologized to his teammates, said it wouldn't happen again, yada yada. That's big, you know, awesome. Just prove it. Prove you're not going to do that again. Just don't be stupid.
And I don't know. I guess I don't have anything else to say. Like I thought that so here's what I'll say. I liked the way that Gibbs ran the ball in this game. So I've been consistent about saying, like, I think that David Montgomery is more important for like the down and distance, like staying on schedule kind of running. And like Gibbs at this point has had multiple explosive runs. I mean, he's obviously very explosive, but like in this game, it was like, oh, that's a 12-yard run. This is a 15-yard run. That's a 20-yard run. This is a 10-yard run. Like, it was like, okay, you're doing this thing consistently. And that's how you ended up at 87 yards. It wasn't that you rushed for 17 yards and ripped off a 70-yarder. You know, like, those are great. I like those. But like the second half of this game, just, I think to me, just confirms on my bias or whatever, my observation bias, that like, you have to keep this team, this offense on schedule for them to perform. And when they get off schedule, it's not great. So like when Jameson throws the ball and gets the penalty, you know, like you're off schedule because you fucked up. So like I want them to be consistent, and
Yeah.
he was a real big, especially in the first half, he was a really supportive piece of being consistent. So
Yeah, and then our top 3 performing players, it's no surprise Sewell's number 1. But Zeitler and Ragnow, so 3 of our 5 offensive linemen, 3 of our 4 starters, because Decker was out, were our best performing people on the team. Goff was 4th with a 78.9, which is a really good overall rating. Montgomery was up next. St. Brown. The person I've been really disappointed in almost this whole season is Laporta.
I think
we've
that
been
he's
joking
hurt.
about like, oh, you think so? Because he's out there.
So
We're just not going to him.
Eric Schlitt from Pride of Detroit, who has better access to the Lions than I'll ever have, has been consistent all year with Laporta was hurt in the preseason coming into it. It's not completely healed. It's bothering him. I just think that he is not 100%. And like who was it? Oh, that was a different team anyways. But like, I think that he is not right physically.
I mean,
I don't know what
that
it
could be
is.
why they're going to Brock Wright more often than Laporta. Like when I see a lot of these passes, I'm like, oh, of course it's going to Brock Wright. Like, why would they go to Laporta? He was only the, number 2 tight end in the NFL last year. Like, but man, that's a lot of snaps if you're hurt, right? 66 snaps, 30 pass blocking snaps.
I think that the injury is not about function, like how well he moves. I think it's about pain management. And like he thinks, I think this is the thing about all NFL players almost, is that it's like if my leg is on my body, I'm going to go out there and play.
Right.
Like tape it up, give me a shot. I'm going out to play. I can't afford to not help my team or lose my job or let somebody down or whatever the excuse is. Like they just want to be out there and play. So yeah, they're playing him, but like I don't see the same player this year that I saw last year. And the only reason that I've been provided for any context to that observation is that it's basically speculated that he is still hurt and just not healing, which to me says something like calf strain, hamstring, something. They are asking him to block a lot.
Yeah. So is it less physically demanding to pass block because you're not making cuts? Is that it? Maybe it's a hammy or a knee or something like that where I can just shove you and block you for 2 to 3 seconds versus running, cutting, and taking tackles. Is that kind of the thought maybe?
I have no idea. Like,
yeah.
To me, the way that you used Sam Laporta last year, if you are then being like, oh, you know what, Sam, you know what we're going to do with you this year? We're going to ask you to block more. What? Like,
right.
If that is the thinking, I don't get it, because he was such an effective weapon last year that if he can be out there for almost 70 snaps and you're going to use him as a blocker, then put Brock Wright in. Brock is bigger and he's better at it, but like throw the ball to Sam Laporta. Like, I get that he should probably be like a complete tight end and like round out these parts of his games, but like I would be saving what he's best at for when you need it.
Yeah.
And not putting, if he is kind of banged up at like, I don't know, like take whatever percentage off for the injury you think is appropriate based on how he's playing. But like, if he's not 100%, yeah. If he's
compared to last year, the dude's like, he's like 40 or 50% of what he was last year. So,
I mean, if it's about blocking, I understand that like he's a threat to block, he's a threat to receive. So like having him out there does 2 things, as opposed to saying like, we'll put another offensive lineman out there in order to really block, but then that guy can't catch a ball. So whatever. But like, like you remember, I was high on him coming into this year, and it's just not been that.
Your preseason bold bet was he was going to lead the NFL in touchdowns,
I sure
regardless
was.
of position.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Patrick played well again.
He's great. I love him.
He reminds me of Josh Reynolds, and like we picked up a dude off the street and overperformed what was expected coming in.
Do you know who got cut by the Broncos today?
I did see that. Speaking of, I did see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Defensively, Josh Pascal, only 7 snaps, played well.
He is now
Zadarius
hurt.
Smith. Yep. Zadarius Smith is continuing to play at a really high level. And Muhammad, who has kind of come in off the bench for us, has played really strong.
He's the guy that I have been the most impressed with out of all these guys that are helping like pick up the slack.
Yep.
He is picking up the most, in my opinion. And loving watching him line up across from Zadarius Smith. So I think he's had something like 4 or 5 sacks in the time that he's played so far this season. You know,
one
like,
last week. Yep.
basically a practice squad player. I mean, like really good. I mean, really, I think that what he's done is that he is ensuring him. He's doing one of 2 things. He's either ensuring himself a spot on this roster next season, or he's getting a payday, like a pretty lucrative payday from him, and not like top of the market, but like millions of dollars where millions of dollars did not exist before from some other team that's like, well, we need a secondary pass rusher across from our star. Like, do you want to take a chance at it?
Yep.
So,
yeah, he's played well. Jack Campbell was up there, 68.5.
Come on, Jack.
Not a bad grade. You know, he's still green there. That's really solid. So, our defense played well. Fact, if we go over to our defense, the overall defensive standings for the year, we have given up the second least amount of points in the NFL. The Detroit Lions, the second least amount of points.
Yep.
Least, Drew, not most. Second least. It's crazy. I love it.
They had gone the previous 10 quarters without opponents scoring on them, something like that.
Without scoring a touchdown?
Yeah. Or in the second half or something like there.
Which makes sense because we've only given up 10 passing touchdowns the entire season.
Well, Kirby and Branch have wiped out a lot of those in the red zone. A lot of them.
Speaking
like
of red zone, we have only given up 13 total red zone touchdowns the entire season.
You know, considering that they're in week 13.
Yeah. 1 touchdown a year, or 1 touchdown per game on average. And then just in general, we are second in red zone touchdown percentage given up. Surprisingly, the Bears have given up a slightly less percentage. How's it going, Michael? Thanks for joining us. The problem is
good.
They've gotten 44 times into the red zone. They just have been able to stop them a fairly high percentage of those times. But we've been stellar. Our defense has been really, really good. And I think it's one of those times where we need to give Aaron Glenn some appreciation. Because 3 years ago, we were like, fire him too. Right? It was not good. We had a horrendous defense. And now, granted, the quality of our players has grown, has gotten better. Our floor is, 3 stories higher than it was to start the Dan Campbell era when it comes to the draft picks that we've gotten and the offseason moves. So obviously with better talent, you're going to do better. But this year has just a masterclass in getting people to do more than what anybody thought they were capable of, with so many people injured, and for us to still be essentially the second best defense in the NFL without Hutch, there's going to be a long list. We'll go through that here in a minute, but like, awesome job, Aaron Glenn. I hope we keep you. I have a feeling that both Aaron and Ben will both be gone at the end of the season, and our window is this year. But man, I hope not, because those guys have been killing it.
So I don't believe that our window is this year. I believe the window is so long as they have the core. And the core is locked up for 4 or 5 more seasons. So, well, see, this is just it. Like
Yeah.
Michael hits the note on the head here. Like, winning is the cure to all ills.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter. Like, your worst enemy, the guy that you would not stand next to in line, like at the grocery store, because you just hate his gut so much. If he's the reason that you're winning football games next season, you're asking him for a selfie in the same
Right.
situation. Like, so like, that's just it. And like, so without any kind of shade at Aaron Glenn, you and I were talking yesterday, and my question is, the roster, especially on defense, was less talented last year than it is this year.
Yeah.
This year's roster on defense is more talented, but has injuries. So what is the difference in the defense this year, more talented, but with injuries,
Right.
than it
So
was
the average
last
talent
year?
level on the field is worse this year because we're playing our depth guys, is what you're saying, right?
Right.
But yet we're playing better.
That's kind of my expectation, is that, like, did you have injuries on defense last year? Yeah, sure you did. What was it to this extreme? Absolutely not.
Right.
So like, what, I don't know what the difference is. And like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So you and I were talking yesterday. I'm like, I've got some ideas on that while I wait for the show. And now's the time. So I think there's 2 things. Number one, I think that some of our key guys have stepped up so much that the other guys that are hurt next to them, that are playing, that are practice squatters or, 4th, 5th, depth chart options, doesn't matter as much because Branch, Joseph, DJ Reader, Alemic, they're playing so well, it offsets how poor, or the step down in quality, right? So I think that's a big piece of it. But I think the other piece of it is Aaron Glenn and the whole team, I think, is just more on the same page. They know what they need to do. Our backups especially, I don't know if they're getting more reps, during the week or during preseason and OTAs and all that stuff. But for some reason, I think that they are just more prepared. They're just more ready to fill in when next man up happens than we were the previous year.
Okay. It's interesting. I don't know. Danny chimes in. Younger players getting experience. It's great, Danny. It's absolutely what's happening.
Improvement in the secondaries made a huge difference.
So what is the difference? Okay, so let's talk about this, because this is one of
Yeah.
the things I wanted to look at all year was the new secondary, right? You go out, you get 4 new corners. That's a big deal.
Again, for the second year in a row, we revamped our secondary.
Yeah. So not only did you bring in 4 new corners, you moved Branch from slot to strong safety. Kirby has taken an enormous leap this year, almost across the board. In every like tracked metric, Kirby Joseph is just better. Like
Yep.
he's hit his like 3rd year. I'm a veteran now in the NFL. How am I playing? Like, this is the year to evaluate a rookie, like a first contract player.
Right.
He's taken. So Kirby Joseph took a huge leap. You changed Brian Branch's position, right? You brought in Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis. Those are your 2 new corners. One of them's a rookie. One's never played for you before, but you signed Amik Robertson. He's your slot guy. You drafted Ennis Rakestraw. And for whatever reason, you re-signed Emmanuel Mosley, who apparently from now until the end of time will be a Detroit Lion. So is that it? I mean, like, a huge jump. Brian Branch is awesome. I mean, like, he's just great.
The number 1 safety in the NFL.
So
Kirby Joseph is number 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's so good. That's just so good. But it has been a while now since Terrion Arnold has been flagged at the rate that he was being flagged his first 4 to 5 weeks in the NFL. They have been.
Yeah.
Zako's like, no, I'm going to plant my flag somewhere in this conversation. Bam, right in the middle. I got it.
Right in the line, right in the trenches.
It's a good spot. It's a good spot.
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation with Michael, with Mike Lutchies here today about he did a mock draft, and he was like, so what do you guys think of my mock draft? And so he had some really good players in there, 2 from Ohio State, though, not a fan. But like but I was thinking about like how would these guys fit with Detroit, and it's Detroit adds good players almost like to the exclusion of any other criteria. So like I can't rule out that those moves would be the moves they would actually make because I just don't understand Brad Holmes. But
in Brad we trust.
In Brad we trust, but like, DJ Reader has been a great addition. I mean, they were good against the run last year and they were like, nah, we can be better. And like they take teams completely out of their game plans because they're able to take away the run and like get other teams off schedule and get them into 3rd and long. And and I think that is a big reason why Aaron Glenn has been as successful as he has been this year with his defense, no matter who's playing, is because like he finally has the pieces to do what he wants to do on defense. Well, first of all, the penalty on Vildor, which I know you didn't bring up, the penalty on Vildor was bullshit. Like they were both hand fighting, and then all of a sudden, like DJ Moore, who has absolutely cooked the Lions ever since he has come to Chicago. I'm actually starting to really hate DJ Moore, but he's really good. But
Yes.
But like, the Lions are, I mean, so the thing about the Lions that I was just fucking screaming at the television on Thursday like my parents were like, are you all right? Do you need to you need a moment, a timeout and calm down or whatever? Is I'm like, run some zone. Like Caleb Williams was hurting them by converting on first downs with his legs. And I don't want cornerbacks turning their back to the play on a mobile quarterback. Like just run some zone. Like you're beat to fuck. I don't want Vildor one-on-one with DJ Moore, which he was all game. And like, I don't understand some of that. Like that was frustrating to me, but like the team is not coached to play zone. So, I mean, like, I understand why you're just adhering to the man, like next man up, no matter what. And they got out of this game, but like I was like, if there was 60 seconds or 30 seconds more on the clock at the end of this game, they may not have won it. And so like while I do appreciate that what Aaron Glenn has done with the defense, and they have certainly responded, and like we can tell by the numbers, I do also think it's like you guys are so all in on your thing that like it might be all right this drive to run zone or whatever.
Right. So
injuries, situation, that kind of like where you are in the field. I thought all those things would like, all right, just let's run some cover 2 or some cover 3. That's fine. Let's just do it every once in a while just to mix shit up.
Get them thinking. They don't know what we're doing that way, right? So, right. I know, like, I think it was Zakwa had said, like, there was, actually it was Michael Lutchies. It's crazy how people flipped from wanting AG fired, and now I'm not sure they necessarily want him to stay over Ben Johnson, but they're no longer like, he's terrible, fire him, all that kind of stuff. We want to keep him around. Right. I want to give AG some appreciation because he's done a lot with less, with the number of injuries that we've got, and have had every Rodrigo's down now, right? So just one thing after another, injury bug issues. So, do you want to talk about injuries? Since that's
I really do.
Kind of where it's rolling. All right, let's do it. Let's talk injuries.
Oh, you want me to start? I thought you were going to bring
let's
up
do
the
it.
list. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna try to find it while you start.
Oh, okay. So, guys, guess what? There are a lot of injuries on this team. Have you noticed? Have you watched the games? Have you seen? You follow the practice reports? I do, and it's awful. So let's just go through and see who's fucking hurt. I made a list and then I didn't bring it with me. It's actually it's on my ironing board right now. But like, so Mike found it. Good, and
So
he
this is
found
from A to Z Sports. They did an article on when, which injuries and then when people are coming back, that kind of thing. I don't think it's an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty good one. So let me
Alex Anzalone.
zoom in.
There you go. Let's get it.
Yep. 2 weeks ago, broke his forearm.
So he's coming back late December. Hopefully. So hopefully we could get a game in. I think we played Minnesota the last week of the season.
Yep. That's a flex game. We don't know when it's going to be, but it'll be there.
I'll bet that's the game that he plays in, and to kind of evaluate him, and then they'll have a week of practice, hopefully, if they get a bye.
Yep.
But that's my concern with all these injuries is that we're going to lose our number one seed. I don't want to lose it. I want that number one seed very, very much.
Yeah. I was actually looking at Super Bowl tickets, and I did get my wife to say, you know what, you can get a ticket, and if we don't make it, you can always sell it, and it won't be, it is what it is. But like if I wait until the actual Super Bowl, it's going to be even more expensive than it is now, which is absurd, right? Last year I had a ticket in my Ticketmaster cart at halftime in the NFC Championship game, and it was $12,500 after fees and all that. And part of me was a little happy that I didn't have to click buy, because I'm not sure, man. That's a lot of money, but like it's literally potentially a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I like doing experience, like once in a lifetime opportunity things. So, I'm not buying a ticket right now, even though my wife said go ahead and buy it right now. I'm like, I'm afraid that our injuries are going to potentially not let us get there. So I'm just going to wait on the Super Bowl ticket, just like I did last year. I might have to pay a little bit more, but I don't have to deal with selling it if we don't get there. So, yeah.
So obviously we've lost Derek Barnes for the season. Go down. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
He's out for the season.
Done.
All right. So
he'll be back
now,
next year.
Right, exactly. So now on to our third linebacker that's been hurt, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, also a special teams ace. He is hurt, but he also can come back. They can start the clock on him at any time. But will they? So I mean, there's no bye week. They can start the clock and like get a 10-day window after the Green Bay game into Buffalo. I don't know if that matters. Like, if that matters, why wouldn't you start the clock on him right now? And they haven't, right? So it's the 3rd of December.
Yep.
So they've waited 4 days, right? 5 days to start the clock on him, and they haven't.
Yeah.
So they're waiting. So to me, that says he's not ready. So hopefully he'll be back soon. Who knows? All right.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice.
I don't know what kind of foot injury that Khalif Raymond has. He got hurt, was carted off, came back out, and was carted off a second time. I've never seen that before. But like once again, like a late December game, he could return for. But like, I don't know that he's the kind of guy that you bring back because you quote unquote have to have him. Yeah, like.
Right.
Always great to have him out there.
Yep.
You can do more things when he's out there, but I don't think they bring him back until they're sure he's healed. And I don't know when that happens.
Because his effectiveness drops dramatically if he doesn't have his speed and shiftiness, right? He needs to be back or he's just not effective. You might as well have somebody else in there instead.
Okay. This was the one that I'm super bummed at because he could have gotten some playing time with Carlton Davis missing the last 2 games. So he'll be back late December.
Late December again. I mean, the good news is all these guys, if you think about it, just in time for playoffs, right? So
That is the
Cool,
silver lining
but-
here. Oh, double PS. Yeah. So like the update is Campbell said he doesn't feel good about Decker playing on Thursday, so he's likely to miss the Green Bay game. So I'm not happy about that. But like
yeah,
I would be
Skipper has not
if it-
played well in his
if it
stead.
means Decker getting right, and then he's got a 10-day window until Buffalo. Yeah, all right, like I get it.
Yeah.
So, but like this is like I've heard that this is a meniscus. It's not a complete tear. It's like a rip or whatever, and like it's about pain management. But in this, like, you could probably play on it, if you're all right
Yeah.
or what have you, and then you clean it up in the off season. But I'm unhappy with the situation because he's good. I did love the fact that he had a bet with Aiden Hutchinson that he lost on the OSU game, and he had to wear Michigan gear. That was kind of funny. So Pascal got hurt seven snaps into the game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Not considered long term. Rehab will be required. Probably miss some games. So not bad enough to go on IR. Too hurt to actually play. Not a great spot.
Yeah. You're taking
I
up
also-
a roster spot, but we don't get to use you.
I mean, like, here's the thing, though. And this is going to sound terrible to say, but like, Muhammad's playing better.
He's playing really
playing-
well.
He's playing better
Yeah. Yeah.
than Zach, unfortunately. So, like, or Josh.
Josh.
So,
I mean, like
what is wrong with
Pascal,
him?
I mean, granted, it was only 7 snaps, but like he wasn't a slouch in those 7 snaps.
And they ask him to do something that's fundamentally different than like what they ask Muhammad to do. With Muhammad,
Yeah.
they're just like, go get him. It's almost like just pin your ears back, kid. Like,
Yeah.
you have one job, right? And Josh is their quote unquote big end. So his job is to like maintain the pocket, like push that pocket, like
Yeah.
don't let people get outside of you, set the edge. Like that's who he is. That's his job.
Yep.
Very much like Kaminsky's job would have been if he wasn't hurt. Oh, by the way, John Kaminsky's hurt. I don't know if you haven't seen him all year.
Well, we haven't gotten to him on the list. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
on here.
The list is extensive. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking
we're only right here on the scrolly bar. So
terrible. So I'm thinking that he'll probably be out for 3-4 games, effectively an IR stay.
yeah. So end of season, right? That game against the Niners is the last game against the Vikings, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Levi Onwuzurike, hamstring injury,
That's
not
bad.
on IR. Yeah.
I would rather that he had broken a bone or something or dislocated a joint, because the soft tissue injuries, your hamstrings, your groins, your calf strains, your high ankle sprains, that kind of shit, that lingers forever. Like,
yeah, but a broken bone, you're out for the season. This is like
but like I think
I'm
Laporta's
not
got a hamstring.
optimistic you'll be playing in a week, but like probably a couple weeks. So like I'd rather have him back than have him out for the season.
He's played well. Like he's played to like, yeah, you're a reliable player when you go into the game, and like he has generated pressure from the interior well this season.
Yep.
So this is a bad injury in my opinion. They're really light on the interior defensive line right now.
Thankfully, DJ Reader has been playing stellar.
Yeah.
Carlton Davis, our number one cornerback.
So Campbell did say that he feels good about Carlton playing against the Packers, which would be excellent.
Yep.
Green
Every
Bay
snap
does,
that Vildor doesn't have to take is a good snap.
yeah.
He's
I mean, like
been terrible this year.
Vildor has clearly been the worst corner on the roster this year.
Yeah.
And when we start doing mock drafts, like I'm going to draft corners because every team needs them. And like Hatters is the one that loves the mock drafts the most, I think. But like I have several different quote unquote ideas about where the Lions can go with their off season. And like, I just have no idea where they can add players to this roster. Like like the spots are all taken up, so what do you do?
It's depth, right? Who is that
depth.
fifth, cornerback? Who's that fourth linebacker?
Exactly.
Hatters, I'm ready for the mock.
So we're not going to do one today, buddy. But if you want, Michael Lutchies and I are talking some mock draft talk, some Lions offseason talk through email. So if you want to jump in on that, I would be happy to have you.
We've also got a Discord.
We do. That's right.
Perfect place for that kind of conversation.
That tells you how much we use it. So yeah, that's true. We should do that. Maybe I'll try and do that. Maybe I'll try and push everybody to the Discord.
I'll throw a link to the Discord, the invite link into the chat. So
yeah, you're a good man. So Ife Melifonwu hasn't played all year, and this has been one injury after another, after another, after another with him, to the point where I'm predicting that he's not going to be on the roster next season. So
I would guess.
So he was so hurt with new shit that the Lions had to take him off of his IR stay, have him back on the roster so that you could put him back on IR for the new thing. And like, he cannot be in football shape. He just cannot be in football shape. I just don't understand how it's possible. So even if he comes back, I don't know how he could really help you. I mean, like maybe some special team stuff. That could be it. Some emergency depth if you absolutely needed it. But I mean, I just don't think, I mean, he's just too hurt. It's unfortunate. And like, he had such a great last half of the season last year, but he just doesn't look like he's going to be available.
And he was mostly a special teamer anyway. I mean, he played some snaps in the backfield, but most of his stuff was in the special teams. He
plays safety, and like, what are you going to do? I mean, like, you're not going to start him over Branch or Joseph. So unless you're going to run a 3 safety look, which I'd be like, I'd rather have a second round safety.
Yeah.
On a rookie.
He's probably more likely to get snaps at a linebacker position with the injuries that we've had there.
I mean, yeah, and they have used him in that role a lot. So that makes a lot of sense.
When he's healthy.
It's a key part.
John Kaminsky, we talked about him earlier. ACL. Ouch.
Hasn't played all year. Have no timeline for his return.
Less than ideal.
Probably not on the team next year.
Aiden Hutchinson, the most painful injury, both from watching it happen and from a roster in team construction.
So he is walking, not just in a pool, so that's good. If I know him at all, which of course I do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, besties
personally, So I'm sure that he's attacking his rehab as hard as his doctors will allow him to do it.
Yep.
And so, but like, unless he's just a miracle, a medical miracle, like he's going to be out until deep into the playoffs. So we'll see. I mean, I don't even really want him to come back this year. I just want him to heal up.
I mean, if it's in the Super Bowl, if we get to the Super Bowl, I want him back for the Super Bowl if he can be.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a limited snap count and you have to pay attention to him for 20 snaps that game. Like, I want him there.
No, I don't know.
As long as he's okay. Like,
I'm super, like, he's my favorite player in the NFL, and like, he obviously played for my favorite team in college, and I have like a super bias attachment to him. And I just want him to be okay. Right. I just want him to be healthy and like do this next season, and whatever it takes is that's what we should do. All right, but I'm good on him. Oh yeah, poor Malcolm.
Super bummed about them. I really like him. He's a hard worker. He's got a high motor and gives everything, right? And to have that kind of thing happen at the end of the season like that sucks.
And it was crushing. You could tell that he was crushed when he was walking off the field into the locker room. That's just such a bad.
He got carted, didn't he?
No, he walked.
Did he? Oh man, that had to hurt. That had to hurt.
Well, I mean, I tore my bicep, and like there was no pain. I mean, I tore the ligament off the bone and there was no pain. I mean, there was pain when I did it.
Yeah.
But after your body goes into shock and you come out of the shock, like I could write, I could move my arm, I just can't rotate it. And so like, but there was no pain. So like, I don't know if I've never torn my ACL. Fuck me sideways. I never want to, just for the experience of it or whatever.
Right.
But like it sure looks like it hurts when they all go down and grab their leg, So
yeah. Or the Achilles.
That's the one. That's the one that I can't do. Like that's the one that I can't do. I hate
snap that. It rolls right up your hamstring.
That's gross.
Yeah. All right. So Rodrigo's out. Mekhi Wingo, he didn't play particularly well for us, but it's a bummer that like he finally got some snaps and then done, knee injury.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel really bad. No, I straight up fucking gagged when you said that, you jerk. So
I thought you were just joking.
I
muted
my mic and literally gagged. My eyes are watering. But
oh shit.
Sorry,
buddy.
Feel real bad for Wingo. Like he had an opportunity to play. He played well into the game. To have this injury at that point in the game and have it be his season is just an absolute.
Yeah,
it's a travesty. I don't want to say tragedy, but like I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for him. Is where I'm coming from on this one.
Yeah. And Davenport was also early in the season, triceps done for the year.
I think that he'll be back next season. Yeah, Michael Badgley, hilarious. Yeah, David Bada, who
hilarious that he's not on the list. Michael, I promise we're not laughing that you are injured.
No, I'm not laughing that he's hurt. Yeah. Like I'm laughing that he is on this list because he's not on the team of the whole season. But I mean, he was in camp, but
I think he got hurt during camp, and I don't think you can. I don't. Maybe you can cut him if they're hurt. I don't know if he's been cut or if he was just put on essentially season-ending IR. But yeah, he's not somebody we're relying on anytime soon.
Yeah. So David Bada is a practice squad guy. I don't ever remember seeing him game time. Badgley, not a part of the team. Antoine Green, the fact that he had a concussion and a neck injury that cost him his season does not speak well for him. Like that's very interesting to me. Like he's still under contract with the Lions. So like, I heard something that they cut him. And I think this is similar to what happened to James Houston in his rookie year. So his contract might be, I'll just jump over the cap just real quickly. But like, I don't know that he's quote unquote on the team next season.
2025. Who are we looking for?
That is Antoine Green. He's going to be on the practice squad here. Hang on one second, or on the injured reserve list. Antoine Green. He is signed through 2026. So they haven't. They must not have actually cut him. They must have just placed him on injured reserve. So like his rookie deal is still intact, which is the thing that I care about there. So, yep.
We have almost $43 million. Hey, Hatters, see you popped into the Discord. Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Hatters will not slow down. So
love it. Almost $43 million on injured reserve right now. And that's only because Hutch is still on his rookie deal.
He costs nothing. It's amazing. So when we talk about like positional value, this is the argument for it, right? Like that you find a player like Aiden Hutchinson at a position that is arguably the most expensive outside of quarterback in the NFL, and you're paying him less than $10 million in his third season. So that's why you do it. That's why we talk about it at least.
Yeah.
So who else is on the list, Mike?
All right. Connor Galvin, MCL.
Yep. He's a practice squad offensive lineman, so not a huge loss, but don't want him to be hurt. Nate Lynn is a defensive end. Pecco is a defensive tackle. Moody is a guard. They're all lost, but Pecco saw some game action early in the season, but he got hurt early in the season. So not
And I
great.
think, yeah, that's the end of the list.
And it's shocking how many of those guys are on defense.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
almost all of
Becker
them.
and Raymond on offense, and that's it.
So we've got Angeloni, Barnes, Reeves Maben. So we got Raymond,
Yeah,
Rakestraw, Decker,
yeah.
Pascal, Anuzurike, Davis, Melifonwu, Kaminsky, Hutch, Rodrigo, Wingo, Davenport, Bada, Badgley. He's not on defense. So
that's
like
definition.
we've gotten to our long time, our cut guys. Antoine Green. So we essentially have like 3 offensive players and a special teamer out of the 20 guys on this list.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
But good news, Mike. The Replacements, which was a hilarious movie with Keanu Reeves in it,
Such a great movie.
are on the way. So who
Excellent.
are our replacements?
Do you have a link for me?
I might.
I mean, because part of it is like we've had so many people we've had to call up. We've just signed a dude, former Pro Bowl.
Go back to over
player.
the cap.
Back to over the cap.
All right. So we'll start at the bottom. Miles Adams. He's an interior defensive lineman. He was on somebody's, I believe it was Seattle's practice squad. Lions signed him. Quan Alexander he's a linebacker. He was at some point in New Orleans with Aaron Glenn. So he is quote unquote familiar with the defensive terminology that they use. They signed him off of Denver's practice squad. Jonah Williams is an interior defensive lineman that Brad Holmes scouted when in his last season in LA. And he has bounced around with a couple of different teams, but largely he's been with the Rams. So Brad knows who he is, scouted him, has a good feeling about him, have a need at the position, signed him off the practice squad. David Long Jr., a couple years ago, he was the prized defensive free agent. He is a linebacker. He's primarily played for the Tennessee Titans, I believe. He could be a very, very good pickup late. Zeke Turner is also I believe, a linebacker. And it's I believe that he did get some snaps this last week, but I think largely he will be a special teams player and like an emergency backup guy. Ezekiel Turner, there he is. So played pretty well.
22 snaps. Yep. Especially this early into his tenure with Detroit.
Yep. So if you can get 20 good snaps out of him, I'd be pretty happy. Pretty happy. And then they also signed, and I don't see him on here yet. He might be on the practice squad if you go down a little bit, Mike. Let's see. Kennedy.
I don't see him. Who are you thinking?
Jamal Adams.
Okay, that's who I thought you were looking for. But yeah, I don't see him there.
Not sure where he falls on this list, but he was practicing today with the linebackers. And that is where I expect him to play, is will linebacker Anzalone's position. The thing that he was the best at once he left the Jets and played in Seattle was that they lined him up as a pass rusher. So I'm of the opinion that he is going to play that quote unquote Iffy Melifonwu blitz role for the Lions and basically I don't think that he's a safety anymore. I think that he's a small will linebacker. So I got something.
He's just taking Rodrigo's position, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's where he'll play. So he is also quote unquote, on the team now. So like you have multiple interior defensive players, and then you have multiple linebackers. So I think that they will run primarily with guys like Ben Nyman, Trevor Nowatzki. Yeah, exactly, Mike. So boom. We are of the same opinion.
And on the weird side of things, since you had me scroll down this far, I'm seeing Nate Sudfeld and Teddy Bridgewater
Yep.
as dead money. We're still paying those sons of bitches this year. Almost $1 million between those two, $800,000.
If you cut a dude, you got to pay him what you owed him.
Yeah,
That's void money.
Guaranteed, whatever's guaranteed and void.
Right.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
Vaitai still got $3.8 million from us, and Romeo Aquara, we're still paying for that son of a bitch too. So
Cam Sutton.
Yep.
Next year, Cam Sutton is the only player that's still on that list.
Oh, is he on that
Right.
list next year too?
Yeah, it's more next year.
Yeah, 6.5. Yeah.
So now, obviously, they'll cut players. And
Yeah.
they'll have some dead money from that, but like it should be less. Than we currently have. And that's just good. So like basically, the Lions are trying to load up for depth on the interior defensive line, and at basically every linebacker position other than Mike linebacker, because Campbell's the last remaining healthy linebacker in the thing. Hey, Brian.
What's up, Brian?
Just think of Teddy as a big brother retainer in case he needs some more mentor some more. So I heard that Hooker still is still in contact with him. I think Teddy's coaching high school football right now at his alma mater. So let's take a look at Green Bay in the next 5 games. Can you bring up the schedule, Mike?
I sure can.
There we go.
Let's see. One of these up here.
Guys, Mike is so good at tabs. You don't even know.
It's not that one. This is the one I want. Lion schedule.
Yeah, see there it is.
All right.
See how we found the tab?
So we got the Packers. Danny and I are going to the game on Thursday. So it was his birthday / Christmas present.
Great. Don't fuck it up.
I know. I have never been to a Lions game before.
Do you remember the game that Ndamukong Suh stomped on Jake Cutler?
Yeah. Did he stomp on him?
Yeah, he straight up kicked him.
I thought that was Aaron Rodgers.
Nope.
Okay.
The Lions played Detroit. The Lions were playing the Bears in Detroit. And Ndamukong Suh got a hold of Jay Cutler, threw him to the ground, and then straight up stomped on him. That's the game I went to.
Nice. Nice. The Rodgers one, I think Sue was falling down and his leg goes out and kicked him in the groin or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the one I'm thinking of.
Some Lions media have been like, "Oh, you should call up 37-year-old Ndamukong Suh and see if he wants to play." And I was like, "No, thanks. We're good." So
I'd be curious to see what kind of power and anger he's got.
Oh, I bet he's got anger. He never didn't have it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know what Green Bay's injury situation looks like, but they seem pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I'll be looking at
for sure.
Yeah, I'll be looking at the practice. Maybe while we're talking, I can go to Twitter and see if I can find a beat writer that has an idea about what it is. But I think what's going to happen here is that the Lions are going to have to absolutely run the ball all over the Green Bay Packers. And luckily, Ragnow, Zeitler, Sewell are the best 3 linemen of any combination side by side with each other in the NFL. So I don't care if it's Gibbs, I don't care if it's Montgomery, I don't care if it's Vaki.
You're right.
They need to run the ball at home. Remember,
if we're running Vaki, we got some injuries, and I don't want to see that.
or we're just up by so much that they put him in. So
I'd love to see that, actually, now that you mentioned it.
So my thinking here is that I think St. Brown is still banged up. And this last game against Chicago, J-Mo actually got more targets than he did, which is kind of a surprise. Which to me says they either did something like put another guy on him and effectively doubled him, or he just wasn't quite the same, and that was the difference between getting open and not getting open as often. He still got open. I mean, he got 5 targets or 5 catches or something, but Well, I don't think that the Lions are. I mean, I think the Lions are quote unquote less aggressive this year, Brian, than they have been, like say last year. And the reason I say that is because they are just not going for it as much on fourth down as they were last year.
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes I think the reason that Detroit beat the Packers ultimately earlier in the season is that it comes down to Dan Campbell is an aggressive minded head coach. And what's the guy's first name? LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is passive. Yep. Like when you get inside like 2 minutes, or when you get in like this kinds of situations that Detroit saw themselves at the end of the game last week with, Matt LaFleur is a passive kick the field goal and not go for the first down or the touchdown kind of coach.
Yeah.
And like
he wouldn't have fucked that situation up.
No, because Matt LaFleur would have been like, okay, we need to get our bearings. Like, let's call timeout or whatever. We could afford to be less aggressive when our defense was healthy. That's a solid point.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I mean, I'm predicting that the Lions fake a punt in this game. So
interesting.
They have not faked a punt in like 5 weeks, I believe. And,
are we going to do that when we're behind, tied, or ahead?
I'm going to say ahead.
I think that's the best. That's the best time to do it, right? Because you don't expect it when you're already ahead. You expect it more if you're behind or if you're tied. So I think Dan's usually been pretty good about picking his times, and I think that's going to be the time to do it.
So I'll get really specific. I think I will say here. Let's just do it. I think the Lions lose the coin toss and the Packers choose to kick the ball to Detroit. They want the ball in the second half.
Which is great because even if we won it, we would ask for the ball.
Lions will score points on their first drive, field goal or touchdown. They will stop the Green Bay from doing it on their first drive, get the ball back. Green Bay will hold them on third down, and they will fake a punt to try and get more points on their second drive. That's how I see it going. So
that's essentially what we did against the Rams the first year that their Super Bowl year, the first time we met. It was in LA. We scored a touchdown, we held them, and we faked a punt to go down and score a second touchdown. I mean, not on that fake punt, but like extend the drive.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
So, I mean, like,
is it going to be successful though?
I don't know. The people that they normally have doing that stuff are hurt.
that's what's got me worried.
Like,
although Jack Fox can throw the ball, like he's thrown the ball well. So
I mean, you can put Vaki back there and direct snap it to him, and like,
yeah,
it just depends on what the down and distance is. So I'm starting to get real nervous about all of the games because Green Bay, good. Buffalo, good. Bears now have an axe to grind, and who knows what they look like.
And a new coach,
right? Who knows what they look like. And then I think San Francisco is going to be a win, even though, I don't know, like I still think they have enough to be dangerous. And then Minnesota, let's just be real about this, are for real. The Vikings are for real.
How can they be for real?
They are for real. They are for
real. They got 9
How
wins, right? Like,
how can they not be?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. For so long, you're like, oh, they got lucky. They got lucky here. Oh, they overperformed here. And all of a sudden, they're sitting there at 9-2, and you're like, I mean, can you really? I mean, if you're not the Chiefs, can you really be lucky that many times in one season?
I mean,
or are you just good?
I mean, I get it. Like, there's not a lot of faith in Sam Darnold, but like, how many times do they have to win close games and just be better than who they're playing until you're like, okay, they're like legit, you know?
Yeah.
And so, right now, Detroit in the division effectively has a 2-game lead because, you had this one ready? That's cool. So,
because this is exactly what it is, right? We're doing the best that we've ever done. They're like, dicking around with Sam Darnold on a rebuilding year, and they're like one loss, more than us, and that's not fair.
So like, effectively the Lions have a 2-game lead in the division because they have a 2-game lead on the Packers and they have a 1-game lead and they own the tiebreaker with the Vikings. So even if the Vikings and the Lions have the same record, the Lions have the tiebreaker until the last game of the season. Yeah. So you need to be at least 1 game up on the Vikings going into week 18.
And that's where Chicago comes in.
Right.
And San Francisco.
I mean, those are two good ones to look to win, So if the Lions can beat the Packers, then the guys in the chat have been saying like they're like 85% to get the number 1 seed. And I'm fine with that, but I would also just straight up fucking love it if the Vikings and Eagles each dropped a game at some point here.
Yes.
Just for a little cushion.
Little breathing room. And I'm not even sure what their schedule looks like. So let's see if I can track that down while you're talking, and I'll track down who they're playing.
Oh, okay. So, once again, I think that the key to the game, weirdly, is like the Lions need to run the ball. The Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs has demonstrated all season that he can create explosive plays in the running game. And like, luckily, outside of Decker, the Lions are relatively helpful. They see really feel us. Yeah. Oh, dude, Arizona. I was following that game on my phone like the whole time, and I'm like, all right, they're up like 10. Okay, they're up like 3. Okay, Vikings have the lead. Okay, and I was just like very unhappy but like that's part of the reason why I think the Vikings are for real is because Arizona's not a bad team.
They're leading their division.
Are they great? No. But they're just like a solid team, So like, hats off to the Vikings. You guys are doing it really nice job.
I thought they were going to be the doormats of their division. I thought it was going to go
they have traditionally
San Francisco, LA, Seattle, and Arizona, and it's literally flipped. It is Arizona, Seattle, LA, and the Niners. Literally couldn't have been more wrong. So the Minnesota Vikings are playing Atlanta at home. Then they're playing Chicago at home. And then they're on the road in Seattle, at home against Green Bay, and on the road in Detroit. That's what they've got coming up.
So as I look at that, who are their last 2 games of the season?
Detroit and Green Bay.
Like, I don't know. I see like an obvious loss on the record, maybe at home against the Lions.
In Seattle's always a tough place to play, especially in December. Seattle's cold, it's windy. They've got a great fan base, that 13th man kind of thing. I think this is going to be really tough. I think they probably win, but I think it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that's tough. And then the Eagles, let's see where they're at. They've got Carolina, which they should walk right through. Pittsburgh's going to be tough. Washington's going to be tough. The Cowboys and the Giants exist. So they really only have 2 tough games coming up.
So Tim Twentyman from the Lions beat reporter group always does like a comparison between the 2 teams and how they're performing like on a team level so far in the season. Like Detroit and Green Bay are like almost identical on where they rank in like the metrics that he always takes a look at. Yeah. And like Detroit is better on 3rd down and they are more efficient in the red zone, and that's about it. So like there's my point here is that there's not a lot of areas to go and exploit. So if I was the Lions, I'd try and keep the ball out of their hands. I would be more aggressive than they are, and I would just try and, you can't turn the ball over and commit penalties in this one,
Yeah. The penalty battle is usually deciding the game.
Is this the
More
Eagles that
times
we're
than
looking
not.
at here?
This is the
This
Eagles.
is not
Yep,
an easy schedule.
Well, they got the Panthers, they got the Cowboys, and the Giants. They got 3 easy wins, and then they've got the Steelers and Commanders. Steelers at home, Commanders on the road. Like, I see them maybe splitting that, or possibly they just run the table. Like, I don't see them losing to the Giants. I don't see them losing to Dallas. I don't see them losing to Carolina. I can see them losing to Pittsburgh, but it is at home for them. Washington on the road. So maybe they lose one of those two, but probably not both.
Yeah.
That's rough. Like, I want them to lose both of those. No offense, Michael Wharton. I want to see you pile up some losses here. Can't Matt Patricia like go back to them for just the last half of the season like they did last year when they collapsed?
So, I mean, Zako brings up a good point here. Like, if we lose, it's got to be to Buffalo for NFC wins. So, like, I don't think Detroit is going to, like, quote unquote, take a week off.
No, that's not the Dan Campbell way.
Right. So, now I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that anybody was suggesting that, but well, I'm really bummed that all these injuries have happened because I wanted Buffalo to be like the litmus test.
Yeah.
For the Lions because it's a possible Super Bowl preview. And it's fun to say. But it is more important that we get the wins, in the division, in the conference. And the Bears and Niners are both not at the same level right now that the Lions are, even with the injuries. I am more concerned about the Bears than I am the Niners, but like I'm starting to be very nervous about this stuff. So if they've already beaten the Packers, they've already beaten the Packers, Bears, and Vikings, right? So like,
right.
Are we really sitting here saying that they're going to sweep the division?
I called it preseason, just to let you know. That was one of mine.
Right? So...
Well, I didn't know that we are going to have almost 2/3 of our starting defense out hurt when I made that prediction.
You can argue they've lost 9 starters on defense.
Yeah, out of 11, right?
So is the Minnesota game in Minnesota or is it in Detroit?
Minnesota. We're in Detroit.
Oh, it's in Ford Field.
For Minnesota. Yep.
So you have Packers at home, Vikings at home, at the Bears. God, that sounds like 3 wins, man. That sounds like 3
Packers
wins.
At home.
It's all going to be tough, though.
Bears on the road, Vikings at home. Niners on the road. Like, I see 4 wins.
I'm going to predict that Detroit wins all the NFC games and loses the Buffalo game.
You're probably right.
Thanks.
I hate saying that. God, and now it's on the internet. So I can't take it back.
Can't take it back.
Yeah. I do think that we might. I mean, we have 10 days between this Thursday and the following game, right? So maybe we get some guy. I'm just looking back at that. Not many of those guys are expected to be back by 12/15, like one guy. But I do wonder if that rest might give us an opportunity to pull out a game that we would otherwise lose just due to, attrition.
Yeah. I mean, but like, okay, so like sometimes the teams that win the Super Bowl are not the best, it's the healthiest.
Yeah. And the ones that are peaking at the right time. Look at the Giants. Both of their Super Bowls, they didn't win their division, they snuck in the playoffs, and they just got hot at the right time.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, like, that's always something to look at, which is who's hot right now, who gets the most home games, who's the healthiest. So, I mean, the Lions...
If we could be 2 of those 3, that could be good.
The Lions can control that part, right? They're in the driver's seat. Like, they have control of whether or not they get home games, right? Like, they can secure a bye, which they desperately need, and they can eliminate a road game. Well, yeah. The only road game the Lions would play is if they were the lower seed in a matchup at some point in the playoffs, right? And that still might not happen.
Right.
So here's the problem. It's like, you just got to go win. And they have done
a problem. That's the goal, right?
They've done a ton of that this season. So, can we keep it going? I'm thinking the Lions will beat the Packers, and I'm going to say 24-21 Lions.
Okay.
I'm going to go see what the betting line is right now on the game.
I think
4.5.
Oh, we're 4.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it might be a shootout, just because I think that we're so beaten up on defense that I'm not sure we only give up 21 or 24 points. I kind of like Zaqua's 30-27 Lions. I'm gonna go 34-31 Lions.
Okay. So the only thing that gives me pause on the shootout idea is that the Lions got a defensive touchdown the last time these two teams played, right?
It was a terrible throw as he was getting rushed. Yeah, bad decision, bad throw. Great for us.
So is Jordan Love still? I mean, there was, for most of the season, the first half of the season, like Jordan Love was guaranteed to make one terrible play. Like, that's just the thing that was consistently happening in every Packers game, and they were still winning. It was like, yeah, they're winning, and Jordan Love will make one awful play, inexplicably awful play. If that happens, I think it's a deciding factor for me. And if he just plays clean, like, if he plays clean, he's good enough to just beat the opposition when they play. So I think you've got to take away their run game, which is what they did the first time.
Yep.
And then, if Carlton Davis is back, then I think that you've got your secondary back. Arnold, Robertson, Davis, Branch, Joseph. Okay, you match up with their pass catchers. One thing I don't know is if they have Tucker Kraft back. I think they do, which he didn't play in the first encounter, and he's good.
All right.
So, I mean, like, they will have +1 weapons that they didn't have last time. And, like, I guess the weakness that I would try and exploit if I'm the Packers is Tucker Kraft on our linebackers, which means you got to play Campbell on Kraft. So,
yeah, his coverage has gotten a little bit better this season. So that's good.
I think that the Lions have the advantage that they're the best run defense team in the league, and it's at home.
Yep.
And I think
with DJ Reader and Ali McNeil playing so well right now, if they do plug that middle and they do get pressure on the quarterback up the gut, I think that we will be able to force him to throw a little quicker, which is going to take a lot of pressure off of our cornerbacks and guys like Campbell, Nowaski if he's in coverage, that kind of stuff. So if we can force him into a quick decision, I think that bodes well for us. We'll see.
I would try and exploit Green Bay's center as much as possible. I would send, like, I know that they were against the Bears, they were blitzing the A gap with linebackers. I would do that again. And I would either send a linebacker into the A gap, like on either side of Reader, or just have McNeil push the pocket. Like, McNeil's going to be going up against Elgton Jenkins. And that's going to be a good matchup to watch, because if McNeil wins that, I think that you will see a game similar to the one that the Bears.
Yeah.
But they cannot, like, you almost lost to a bad team in Chicago, or not a great team in Chicago, by playing one half of football. You can't give that same latitude to the Packers. Oh, by the way, Xavier McKinney, their offseason addition, is still talking shit in the press about the Lions. Like he's like, St. Brown, he's not a big deal. And I was like, bitch, you ran your mouth the last time and they beat you in your house, like shut up. Like it doesn't matter. The Packers just always seem to find someone who is an absolute bitch. So
this is true. Yeah, that was that one. There were a couple other things I want to do right before we sign off here. So the NFL sent out their Pro Bowl update. There are 0 Bears in the top 10 for voting at any position. There are 19 Lions, 14 Packers, 12 Vikings in the top 10 Pro Bowl voting this far. Very, very good.
Here's my only problem with the Pro Bowl.
It doesn't matter.
Fans, players, and coaches all vote for who they want to go to the Pro Bowl
as often as they want.
And right now, neither Detroit safety is a going to the Pro Bowl. And like
this is yeah, I mean, like the year Matthew Stafford had 5,000 yards, he was the third person to ever do it, didn't even get voted to the Pro Bowl that year. Like it just doesn't matter. As far as like does it mean anything? But I think that it's always good to have people there. It's something you can, brag about or whatever, but does it really mean anything? Not really. Coach of the Year from BetMGM, we got Dan Campbell leading that charge at plus 110. Tomlin and Kevin O'Connell both doing a great job, but they're pretty far back considering. So I would love to see MCDC come home with
that. That list basically reads to me like the guy that's currently coaching the team with the most wins in the NFL who hasn't won this award yet. And then the other 4 guys who have the highest winning records of all the surprises in the NFL this year.
Yes.
And I'm like,
and usually it's the surprisers that win it. Right? Like, why is Andy Reid not on this list? He's probably the best coach of the NFL. And they've only got 1 loss, but he's still not on this list because A, they're not a surprise, and B, they're underperforming compared to their record. Like they came through with a bunch of pretty fortunate situations for their wins, right?
Yeah. So Michael has a point here. Some players get a bonus. So I'm going to
true.
Them. But like where that really matters is if you're a first contract player. If you're a first contract player and you get like if you're like first ballot Pro Bowl or it's all pro or first ballot Pro Bowl twice or by snap percentage, like something kicks in your contract and you earn more money. Like maybe it's guarantees or like what your fifth year option goes up or something like that, even though no one uses their 5th year options anymore. So, yeah. Well, Mike, we're at 2 hours. That seems like plenty of time.
Yeah, we got Thursday night football. So 48 hours from now, Danny and I are going to be sitting way up high because it's the cheapest ticket I could find at the game, hopefully rooting on a victory. 7 days from now, I'm hoping we come back to a victory, yet another Victory Tuesday is my hope. But in the meantime, appreciate everybody in the comments, in the chat. That's awesome.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord. I threw that into the chat. I threw it into the show notes on the description on YouTube. Tell your friends. It's always fun to get more and more people on there, even if you're not a Lions fan. So folks like Michael Whartonby, who is an Eagles fan, unfortunately, I'm still trying to convert him. It's not going to work. Yeah, tell everybody. It's a good time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Yep. We'll see y'all. Bye.